or the concerns you have about our present. I know that there are so many upstate and North Country families that are concerned about what's going on in our country. And instead of focusing on those concerns, what do you think the president and this administration are focused on tonight? Bombs, billionaires, ballrooms. I don't know anyone that voted for that. The America that we all believe in is so much better than that. But something's shifting. The Trump flags are coming down and the American flags are going up. We know that we have to come together, show up like you all have here this evening, because that's what this moment demands of us. The most dangerous thing that they can do is to convince you that your voice doesn't matter. And I'm here tonight to tell you that it does matter. Now, there will be some folks that try to divide us up along party lines or ideology or maybe even geography. Don't let them. Tonight, I have some friends that have come from different areas of New York. One, a blue district in New York City. Another, a purple district in the Hudson Valley. And there are some that look at this region of New York and they see red. But when I look out at this crowd here tonight, the only colors that I see are red, white, and blue. Your voice matters in this room and in Washington, in November, but most certainly here and now. And I'm so grateful that I have some friends here tonight that share that belief and are here this evening to lift your voices up. And it's my privilege to introduce them to you. She is a tireless defender of working people who has never shied away from speaking truth to power. He is a combat veteran who has never stopped serving the people he swore an oath to protect and defend. Ladies and gentlemen, the representatives from New York 14 and New York 18, my friends, Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Congressman Pat Ryan.
Before you sit down, if you don't mind. Sorry about that. I should have been faster. Thank you for being here. Give Matt. Matt is just phenomenal. Matt, thank you so, so much. Building on what Matt said, if everybody is willing, I wanted to ask us to actually ground tonight in the pledge, because I believe that the values in our Constitution and that we say in our pledge belong to all of us. And we should not let anyone else try to claim those. So if you're willing, please join me in the pledge tonight. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Indivisible, with liberty and justice for I'm sorry? Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you all so much for taking the time and coming out here today. Please give yourselves a round of applause. It's Pat and I have had such a fantastic day. We have traversed the state, actually. We started off this morning in the Bronx. And yeah, we got any Bronxites out here? Okay, here we go. And we started off by touring the Hunts Point Produce Market, which is, there we go, the largest fruit and produce market in America. And we, I think I love the produce market. It's kind of a weird thing to say. But when you're walking through the market, you're seeing all of these boxes come in from upstate New York, from the eastern seaboard, from Canada, from Mexico, from California, from our local farms here across the state. Pat and I, we actually found a bunch of pallets of apples here from Utica County that were just coming off the trucks in the Bronx. And you see all of our workers that are, many of them first generation, taking these boxes off from multi-generational farming families upstate. You've got families and produce small businesses that are trying to make a living feeding all of the people across the state. And you really see how tied up and intrinsic our lives really are to one another. And all of the divisions that people try to make between all of us are manufactured completely, whether it's by class, whether it's by race, whether it's upstate and downstate. All of this is a mirage to try to distract us from the fact that the working class of this country, no matter who you are and where you've come from, we are all united by a common cause. And we are all here to make our lives better, and the only way we can do that is by fighting for each other. And so I just want to thank you all. We started off that day in the Bronx, and then we hopped in a car and went all the way up to Kingston, where people were doing deep canvassing out in Kingston, and they were just knocking on people's doors, regardless of their voter registration or whatever their backgrounds are. And the beautiful thing about something known as deep canvassing is that for once, people aren't getting their door knocked on to be asked for a vote or to be asked for a transaction. These folks were asking people what was important to them. And people rarely ever experience that. And people were saying, you want to know what I think? And some people were saying, but I'm a registered Republican. Do you really want to know? And people were saying, yeah, we want to know. And it creates this whole resetting of what we think is possible in our politics. And that brings us to here tonight. And I think one of the things that we really want to accomplish here is that in a time of so much division, right? It's really easy to get our haunches up and to get very defensive. And there's a lot to be angry about in this moment. Our health care is being taken away from us. Our wages are not growing. Our rents and mortgages are spiking. We can't afford a damn thing that we could have afforded 10, 20, 30 years ago. And for the first time in our country's history, young people have a worse quality, projected quality of life than the generation above them. And that's not ever what the world that we wanted to leave to our kids, and it's certainly not the world that we fought for and the country that we fought for. And so in that time of so much division, we're actually here to create a space of vulnerability. And in this town hall tonight, I think one of the things that we want to accomplish is actually speaking about these issues from a personal space. I'll start off. I'll start off by example. When I was first running for office, I did not have health insurance. And so many of the issues that are closest to our lives are really hard to talk about. It was really hard to talk about. I barely did at that time, about the fact that I didn't have health insurance, yet I felt somehow qualified to raise my hand to run for office, right? I was a waitress, and I was running against a 20-year incumbent. And it's kind of crazy to ask people to support you against someone that has so much more experience than you. And to say, you know, actually one of the things that can make us more experienced is actually having these experiences. And it actually does qualify us to have an opinion in the public space when you know what it's like to not have insurance, when you know what it's like to try to make ends meet and choose between a prescription and something else that you want in your life. And being able to know what those experiences are and to live that way is the only way that we can turn anything around. When I was running, I didn't have health insurance, and I had to launch a canvas, and I had a doctor tell me that I needed to take a blood test. There was nothing wrong, but he just wanted to check, double check. And I was in the doctor's office, and when he told me this, I cried because I could not afford a blood test, especially without insurance. And so I had to launch a canvas, and people were walking around with clipboards, with palm cards with my face on it, asking people to vote for me for Congress. And I had to go to a student clinic at 8 o'clock in the morning and just wait 4 hours in the hope that someone would see me. And the reason that I tell that story is because my hope is that when we talk about the issues and ask about these issues tonight, I want to know about what makes you care about this, what experience you've had or a friend had or loved ones had, and how it's shown up in your life. Because the way that we're able to do that allows, when you give us those stories, it tells us exactly where to go in Washington. 8 years later, I'm very privileged to have gotten on the Energy and Commerce Committee in the House of Representatives. And the reason I worked to get on that committee is because it has jurisdiction over all health care in the United States. And every day that I sit in that committee, I am also that girl that was sitting in that clinic. And I know that there are millions of us sitting in those clinics and in those pharmacies every single day having to make tough choices and going home and not saying a word. And that, at its core, is the indignity of the moment that we're living in. Not just the sacrifices that we're being asked to make, but the fact that we're being asked to swallow it and not talk about it as though it's not happening to all of us. They want to make it seem as though it's only happening to a small sliver of us. But the truth is, this is killing all of us, and we have to talk about it. And so I'm really looking forward to tonight. I'm really looking forward to learning more about your life and your life and your life on an individual level, the schools that your kids go to, you know, the care that you're looking to get, the things that keep you up at night, because that's truly at its core what's going to allow us to govern. And in operating that way and in connecting with one another that way, that's also how we're going to flip this seat in November too. So I want to thank you all for receiving us. I already know they're going to call us every name in the book for coming out here because they want to keep us from coming here. But we're not going to allow that hostility to keep us from moving forward, and we're going to show that a politics of kindness and care and compassion and ferocity in fighting for what's right is and can win us everywhere. There's no place that won't work. So with that, I'll turn it over to Congressman Ryan, and let's get the evening started.
Thanks for coming.
No, thank you.
Thank you guys for coming.
Thanks for having us.
I'll be very brief because I want to set that same intention and hear from folks. But I do want to share something personal to me too. This last week for me has been very emotional. on a personal level and a political level too. I served 2 deployments in the Army in Iraq. I still wear this bracelet that has the names of all my fellow soldiers and West Point classmates that signed up and took an oath to serve the country in uniform and trusted that the people in charge would only, as an absolute last resort, send them to risk their life somewhere around the world, and to do it in a way, in a place that they could be proud of, and if they did, God forbid, make that ultimate sacrifice, that it was for something greater than themselves. And I remember writing the note. I haven't talked about this very much. You inspired me to share. I remember writing a note to my parents when I was 22, as I was leaving Fort Carson in Colorado Springs, which they, thank God, never had to open, but this was a note that they would read if I didn't come home. And I said something like, I really wish I had saved that note. I didn't save that note. But I said something like, I'm proud of my team, I'm proud of my country, and if I don't come home, I was doing what I thought was right, and I know that these now seven Americans, we heard about another one today, that made that ultimate sacrifice in an illegal, ill-conceived war now, I believe, in Iran, that they probably wrote something similar to their families. And one of the main reasons that I wanted to run for this office, I similarly serve on the Armed Services Committee. And the one promise I made myself was I would not allow another generation of young, idealistic, and proud Americans get sent to a regime change war anywhere, and certainly in the Middle East again. And so this week I've done more TV hits. I'm a pretty quiet, low profile kind of a guy, but I have been just on fire and furious on behalf of both my personal experience, but on behalf of all these young Americans from working class families across this country. They're not divided by politics, they're not divided by geography or anything else, as you were saying, who trusted they would only be sent into harm's way for the right thing. And instead we have a 5-time draft dodger who talks tough, thinks this is a video game, and has no clue what those kids are going through. So we need voices from all across the tapestry of this country with all these different experiences, and we need your stories to give us that ammunition to fight back and say, no, we're not gonna allow this to happen. As Matt said, people don't want more bombs. They don't want billions of dollars per day being spent, mostly going to these big defense companies that don't need any more of our taxpayer dollars or profits. The one thing we all want is get us out of these open-ended forever wars and lower our costs, and Trump's done the exact opposite. But we need to bring that to life, and so now I will shut up and listen. And we are so honored and grateful and humbled to be in the presence of fellow patriots who love this country. And thank you all for being here. So we'll start off. Destiny for my team is going to start us off. Ma'am.
Got it? Oh, you're going to hold it? Okay, all right. Hi, guys. Melissa Seal. I am running for the state senate for District 45 and as a Democrat. And I was driven to do so because I'm a psychiatric nurse practitioner. I own a clinic right here in Glens Falls, and we see kids ages 3 to 18. And what I've seen over the course of my career is it's getting more and more difficult to survive as a provider that accepts Medicaid, and it's getting more and more difficult to get kids the things that they need, medications. We're fighting constantly as providers. Prior authorizations are increasing. It's a constant fight. We've had to drop some managed Medicaid insurances because it actually costs me as a provider to see them. So with the rising costs of healthcare, if you could speak a little bit to that, and it is a big concern of the constituents of this area, for sure.
Well, thank you so much. First of all, Thank you for stepping up to run for office. There's a, sometimes I think there's I mean, I know I may be a biased source, but I think sometimes there's a negative stigma about running for office, as though it is like a self-driven thing. But especially in a place like this, to raise your hand in an environment like now and a time like now is incredibly selfless. And so thank you for raising your hand and to sign up for the journey you have ahead. And then also thank you for doing your work as a healthcare provider out in a community like this. It's so needed and necessary. And we all see what's going on right now with our healthcare battle. Last year, Republicans in their big ugly bill, they passed $1 trillion in healthcare cuts across the country. And there is no form of healthcare that is not touched or affected by these cuts. And when we talk about division, this is exactly the kind of thing that we were talking about. They wanted to issue this statement as though we're just going after these 30-year-old men on Medicaid playing video games in their basement, right? This was the narrative that we heard. First of all, I think everyone should have health care in America, regardless of who you are and what you're doing. And the idea that there is anyone that is less deserving of who they are is the problem to begin with. But that's what they use to justify us, right? Because they want us to do the work for them. They want us to sort ourselves into the idea of deserving and undeserving, or pointing at our neighbors in terms of deserving and undeserving. And that smokescreen, that idea, is how they tried to pass $1 trillion in healthcare cuts across the board for all of us. If you have private insurance, your premiums are going up. If you're an employer, if you're a small business, the cost of insuring your employees has skyrocketed. If you're on Medicaid, tons of people who qualify for Medicaid are getting kicked off because they're putting in all of this bureaucracy and red tape. And if you're on Medicare, you're also being affected by this, especially with cuts to long-term care as well. So we're all in the same boat here. And so first and foremost, we've got these immediate fixes, right? We need to extend the ACA subsidies, as we've been fighting in Congress. But also, we need to recognize that our healthcare system was broken before these cuts came into place. And I know that Congressman Ryan and myself, we both believe in guaranteeing healthcare to every American, in making sure that everyone has the ability to buy into Medicare. Isn't that right, Congressman Ryan? And so that everyone can have that opportunity. And what I think is so special about this moment is that there's a lot of chatter, sure, about the division in our country. And then there's, of course, a lot of chatter about the Democratic Party as well, right? And we all come from different places, from different backgrounds, representing different communities. I, of course, have been a very vocal defender or advocate of Medicare for All, for example. But also, I think that if our party can get to a place where everyone can buy into Medicare, I'm going to take that too. We all need to take that fight. We all need to take that step. And so there's that piece. We need to break up the monopolies that are happening in our health care insurance. The idea that a health insurer can own the PBM, can own the drug manufacturer, can now own the doctor's clinics. It is outrageous. We need to break them up. We need to take on corporate power. Politicians have to stop taking their money. And we need to also allow everyone to buy into Medicare and have that option to level the playing field for everybody. So to me, I think these are just where we can get started. But there's a lot of places that we can go. And, Pat, I know you have experience too with the VA and veterans healthcare. So I'm curious if you have any thoughts on that.
This is, as you say, you are all over this. So I'll just add two quick things. One is that actually in my district in the Mid-Hudson Valley is one of two places in the country, us and Oregon, where we've seen the highest concentration, you talked about this, of, in our case, United Healthcare, coming in and buying everything, literally buying everything up. Our small independent physician practices, our community pharmacies, they already own all your data, as well as they literally have vertically integrated and become, if not a legal monopoly, I am not a lawyer, certainly in effect, my constituents.
It shouldn't be legal.
Yeah, well, it should not be legal, absolutely. And so one of the bills that I'm working on with colleagues is to literally break that up and not allow this takeover by United and these other multi-billion dollar, they're making actually multi-billion dollars just in profit alone each year. And that's something that, again, is not a divisive thing. The only people winning in that scenario are a few people sitting in boardrooms somewhere that are certainly not up here in upstate in the North Country, certainly not in my district, certainly not in the Bronx or Queens, and that's an issue we can all rally and fight behind. And we all know where your current, I'll use the word representative, but really she is not a representative, is on this. Cowardly absent, more than 5 years without town halls, as you all know. Not even a telephone town hall in 2 years. More like 10, yeah. The other thing that I do want to hit on, though, is the VA. This is a parallel system, as many veterans in the room probably know, but is critical to our overall healthcare system, and also I think there's an especially sacred moral responsibility that if you're willing to sign up and risk your life for the country, we better damn well take care of you and your family when you come home. And instead of that, nationally, they're trying to cut 85,000 physicians, providers, and staff at the VA, over half of whom, by the way, are veterans themselves. And they're the party that supports veterans and supports strength, and I mean, give me a break. Locally, though, and this is where I'd ask everybody to help us and give us ammunition. In my district, and this has happened across the country, our VA, my VA that I go to for care, at the beginning of this administration, despite all their rhetoric, one of the first things they did was close 20 inpatient mental health and substance abuse recovery beds, completely shuttering, literally turning off the lights in this unit. The only place a veteran potentially in the moment making an incredibly horrific decision would show up and now have nowhere to go. But here's what I want to say about that. We refused to accept that in our district. We did rallies, we did speak outs, we had veterans of all stripes and every generation say, this is not political. We are not willing to accept this. And about, 2 or 3 months ago, we actually got word that they've reopened those beds. All of our pushing and fighting mattered, and that's what we have to do on all these fronts, armed with your guys' stories tonight.
Oh, yeah, sure. Right here.
Hi, thank you so much for coming. I have to say, thank you for your courage, because every day you show up, I know you get the death threats, and I know it's scary, and you're showing up and you're doing this and you're representing all of us, and we're with you. Like, we're with you. We're seeing you on TV, and our daughters are with us, seeing you on TV. And I feel like I'm kind of fangirling a little bit, because I, like most people, we are all collectively traumatized in this country. And I came with my girlfriend tonight and I said, I need some inspiration. And where better to get it from the two of you? So I just wanted to say thank you, but I do have a question. I'm sorry, I'll be quick. So I was born and raised in Lewis County, which is right at the foothills of the Adirondacks and right in the center of the Lee Stefanik district. And there are good people there, hardworking people there. And my family, I have family who are Trump supporters. And I know I'm not alone in this room when I say, if you live around here, we are all met with the same challenges every day. How do we reconcile all of these differences within our families? And you know, it always comes down to this for me. They tell me they hear it on Fox News. And I find it unbelievable that there is not a mechanism in place in our government that can hold the media to a standard of facts and truth, and not just through civil litigation. And I know that I'm saying this in a very timely manner because something just happened yesterday where Fox News actually reran some video from last year because they didn't want to show Donald Trump in a baseball cap because it was disrespectful. But there has to be some kind of mechanism. And they're hiding behind the First Amendment, and that's not right. So could you both kind of, I'm sure you both thought about that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Very briefly, I heard somebody say it, fairness doctrine. Yeah. We had this in the country. We made, well, not we, Reagan and a bunch of Republicans, to be candid, I'll just be straight up, made this decision. We decided in the pursuit of really profit, under the guise of free markets and blah, blah, which is total BS, because this is not competition. This is not free at all. We're not free when Murdoch and all them are making billions and billions, and our communities are being fed lies while they're dividing us. So I think legislatively and morally, even just getting back at a minimum to reassertion of that doctrine, which carried us through decades of you actually had to have time restrictions on balanced presentation of facts. There was ability and mechanisms to bring that accountability you talked about, ma'am. And so that's something that I think a part of what we're wanting to hear tonight is when we retake the House, what is central to that agenda? And I think this absolutely has to be part of that.
Yes, you know, I think fairness doctrine is absolutely such an important key and linchpin, because once that kind of came out, we started this whole slide in our media environment and media as entertainment instead of to inform. And also the other story that we have right now in the present context is the very scary concentration of power and media outlets that is happening. The concentration has been, we know it's been happening for a very long time, but it has now gotten to such an extreme degree that you can literally name the billionaire that owns the outlet. That Jeff Bezos owns the Washington Post, that you have these deals with the Ellisons, who now are taking over TikTok, that are taking, and these include our digital platforms as well, everything from TikTok, but you have this merger deal now with Paramount, CNN, you have, you just go down the list, right? You have CBS that's been taken over by a charlatan, and we have now, we're not just talking about the 24/7 media channels, we're talking about some of the greatest historic journalism institutions in the United States, like CBS, not to even speak of the decimation in local journalism. And really, the gutting of local journalism is the seed for a lot of this. You have Sinclair, and so you have both fairness doctrine and you have competition. And you have to make sure that we are protecting from all of these mergers, because I know with a lot of these questions, we're going to be touching on some themes, common themes that go throughout the night, right? And And monopolies is one of them. We just talked about it in healthcare, and there's also media monopolies as well. And then on top of that, I want to cut to the personal aspect of what you shared, which is that a lot of us have been dealing with the pain of family members or friends that are on the other side of the political aisle. And there's also, I think, a personal and emotional pain sometimes of feeling like you, as the person right in front of your loved one, is not listened to or thought of, and your input is not as important as this mainstream Fox News, like a television channel. And I think that really cuts to a lot of the pain that people feel right now, which is at the core of that, regardless. I mean, yes, there's a lot of political differences there, but it's also, how am I less important than the TV to you? Like that, I think, is the core of the hurt that millions of people across the country are feeling. And I think that's also why trying to cut through and create connection is what can actually help pull some people out, but it's not easy. I don't know, has anyone here had success or know someone that has been able to change their insight? Anyone? Oh, we've got one here. Who raised their hand up there? Can you, in the blues, can you share your story? Would you mind sharing it? I'm sure a lot of people would be interested.
This is amazing to speak with you. Just like Melissa, I also ran for the first time for public office. I'm the first openly gay council person on Glens Falls Council. It's amazing.
Hey, congratulations.
But my husband Michael is right here, and I had the best success of, she was a Christian Baptist, thinks that our relationship is against the religion and everything, but last year she openly at a diner referenced me as her son's husband, and that was a huge moment. And there's still a lot of work to do in terms of her use of Truth Social and Fox News, but you can break through. Just take small steps.
Do you feel like there was something that helped her get to that place?
I think what you were talking about of continually be engaged and show compassion and kindness. And I think I learned something recently of whenever someone comes at you with anger or stuff, you just have to ask, why do you feel like that? To try and make sure their voice is heard. And then slowly over time, they'll sort of understand the biases that's going on through their head.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So we have a pre-submitted question from the overflow room. This is from
We should
Andrew.
tell people, by the way.
Oh,
People
yeah.
are so excited to be here that there's a whole set of another 200
Yeah.
folks right next door, and we want to make sure to get them in on this. So hi, guys.
Hey.
All right, so this question is from Andrew. He's an Iraq war veteran and a federal worker who were fired by DOJ. His question is, with the impact of DOJ cuts across all agencies, can you speak to the impact you've seen across the state as the cuts affect everyone in their abilities to access health care, veteran services, and essential services to families across the country?
I don't know. Is there any way he can come in here and...
Okay,
All right,
we'll
because
grab
I
it.
think that's an incredibly powerful question,
Yeah.
but I think in the spirit of what we're trying to do tonight,
Sure.
I would love to hear him
Yeah.
talk about what that meant to him while he's Andrew, right? While Andrew's coming, maybe we take another question and
let's
come
do
right
it.
back to that. Up there with the glasses. Sorry, I can't see very well.
Can you come over to the side, do you mind? Sorry. I'm gonna hold it, so never mind, just kidding. Hold on.
We don't want any filibusters here tonight. We got our eye on you, sir.
Good evening. Thank you so much for taking my question, and thank you both for being here. I was 16 years old when Donald Trump came down that golden escalator. In 2 weeks, I turn 27. I will be almost 30 when this is done. I guess I want to say that I have, and especially in my age cohort, seen a lot of anger about the fact that this was what our youth was. And I don't know if I'm ever not going to be angry about that, because I have watched the world fly from one crisis to the next, and everything I was promised and that I watched other people get has been systemically denied to my cohort. So my question to both of you is, how do you plan to reconcile with an entire generation which spent 15 years being degraded and watching this world be just denied to us?
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing
That's such a powerful question. And I want to validate, too, everything that you just said, because it's so messed up how screwed our youngest Americans have been in all of this. And I was, talking earlier, and this is the first generation that is going to be worse off than their parents. And that is the exact opposite of what we are supposed to be as a nation. And in fact, in many ways, if we don't turn that ship around, that is the definition of a nation in decline. And so I want to validate what you're saying. I mean, for us as millennials, sometimes we think that we had it rough. But also, for Gen Z, you go to high school, your college was online, you graduate into a really tough economy, and a lot of that economy is also remote too. And you've also been raised in a culture, like the political culture I think about this all the time. The political culture of the last 10 years that an entire generation has now grown up in has been deeply cynical, deeply toxic. The bar is in hell in terms of how people treat each other. What's been normalized is not who we want to be. And, we thought we had a rough go graduating into a recession as well. But, at least in a way, like, we saw the world before cell phones. We saw the world before Donald Trump and before this culture of politics. And it's really disturbing what people find to be normal now. And it's not normal. And so the one thing that I want to say is that we are also in a moment of a lot of debate around generational change in our politics. And that's just not, that, yes, it applies in terms of elected office, but this also applies, our opinions on issues are different generationally. And it's about time that we really do need to invest in our young people. It is a crime. It is a crime that you essentially have to take on houses worth of debt just to get a college or vocational education. That when you do get that education, you graduate into pay that is way worse, adjusted for inflation, than our parents or our grandparents ever had. And really what we need to do is have a fair shake in this country. And that really needs to require a concerted investment in young people, in our future. And that also means addressing our housing crisis, our education crisis, our job crisis, and also setting a different example of what our politics can be, and that we can actually build movements based on hope and solidarity, and that's not like soft, squishy stuff. The only way that we're going to achieve things like universal health care, the only way unions ever got us a weekend and higher wages is because we had the audacity to believe in our collective power. And that's what we have to do again to win this around.
Is Andrew here? Sorry to bring you in, Andrew, but thank you for the
I
question.
appreciate it.
And if you would you mind like sharing how
Your
that has
question,
felt
yeah.
to you? And
Yeah.
Thank you.
My name is Andrew Carballo. I'm an Iraq War veteran as well. Thank you. I spent 15 years with the federal government, grand total, and left due to Doge cuts from the Waterville Arsenal in Waterville, New York. It was tough, just having essentially more and more responsibilities thrown on our shoulders every day as people took the initial wave of the Doge offer. Impacted us because we're going crazy as far as every day we're having to justify our existence through those emails. I'm sure everybody heard about what we did last week. As a veteran with mental health concerns, I'm having more and more inner thoughts to myself that, am I writing too much, too little? And then you start digging deep that maybe it's not even worth keeping going. And I eventually resigned from that position. I work with the state government now in New York, and things have been a lot better there. But overall, like the impact of those Doge cuts don't just affect me as a veteran and coordinating the veteran affairs services as far as personnel, staffing, facilities, as you mentioned just not that long ago, but essential services that are provided by the government that impact all families, coordination of care, impacting individuals with disabilities and making sure their grants are there, coordinating the funds to those families. But yeah, the Doge cuts themselves have been greatly impacted. I mean, I could go on about the Iran thoughts as well, just because I wouldn't want anyone that I know to serve in this climate of going to a war in Iraq. Just knowing what I have as far as mental concerns, I don't want that in anybody else. There shouldn't be any more vets, personally, just me.
I agree.
Like I apologize, I'm getting nervous talking to you guys. But I want to thank you for visiting up here. I don't have anything else to say other than thank you for coming and listening.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And I mean, you think about the ripple effect. That is a betrayal. It is a betrayal on so many levels. It's a betrayal of you who, like, multiple times said, I'm going to sign up and choose to do something greater than myself, to serve other people, to take the challenges that it sounds like we've both experienced and so many veterans of the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan have experienced, and rather than to retreat in those, which is understandable, to say, no, I'm going to lean in, I'm going to give love and care and find brotherhood and sisterhood and fellowship with others that are going through this. Like, there is nothing more like patriotic and American and makes me so damn proud of our country than to hear your story. And there's nothing that makes me more pissed off than to hear the disregard for that, for you, for everybody you were serving and supporting, for your family and what that put you through. And then you multiply that times hundreds of thousands of public servants who are like not in it for the pay, right? I mean, who are in it to serve. And I think it ties to your really good question too, of like, who do we want to be as a country? Who do we want to reward as a country? And we make these decisions in Congress, we make them, of course, in our communities, but like, think about this big, ugly bill that we talked about with these healthcare cuts. And I want to tie this to another decision that was made in that bill. And by the way, that bill in the House of Representatives passed, rammed down the throat of the American people by one vote. So don't ever think that all of our votes, especially in communities and districts like this, don't count. But that bill made a very deliberate, I believe, un-American decision that is a betrayal, which is we gave $1 trillion. $1 trillion. That's an impossible amount of money to imagine in tax cuts to the wealthiest 1% of Americans, rather than to people serving and people serving each other, rather than to our healthcare system, rather than to improving our education system so young people that are working so hard can be prepared for this next wave of jobs and careers and can actually, like, realistically dream of buying a home before they're 50 or 60 years old. Like, those are those decisions, and they come down to sometimes one vote. And so I think, like, what all of us can do, I really think, I know this almost sounds naive, like, if we lean into this deliberate division and sorting that you talked about with our full hearts, like fullness of heart, not in a soft way, but in a fighter way. Good trouble. That is right. That's the only way out. I really believe it's the only way out. And this district, no pressure. You can be that one vote. We will be that one vote. I believe we will be that one vote.
Absolutely. You know, it's one thing on what happened with Doge as well is that, oh, Andrew, sorry, I just wanted to, oh, no worries. I mean, you can head out. But one of the things that I wanted to also talk about on the Doge point is that, once again, the reasons that they put out here, whether it's who's deserving or undeserving of Medicaid, you know, and what we saw with this whole Doge to justify it was this idea of waste, fraud, and abuse, right? And let's be very clear, we want to make sure that our public dollars are used in the most responsible and highest good. First of all, tax cuts for billionaires are not that. But in all of this show about scanning everything, about what's waste, fraud, and abuse, a lot of people don't know that a huge, massive proportion of federal workers are United States veterans. They're veterans. And then they go in and sign up for more service once they come back home. And you are a perfect example of that. And what these folks decided to do, and what this administration decided to do, was pursue this nonsense in having people, honorable people like you, sending emails about what they did that week. You know what wasn't getting assessed? You know what wasn't getting doged? Corrupt contracts. Corrupt contracts and corrupt contractors. I sat on the oversight committee for many years, and we would drag through some of these defense contractors and pull up what they were billing the American people, our tax dollars, for parts that we knew cost pennies or a buck or two to make, charging thousands of dollars to us. People, you know, the Pentagon has not yet passed a single audit. And we are out here trying to kick people with disabilities off of Medicaid. It is corruption that is stealing from the public coffers. And that's the actual waste, fraud, and abuse that we need to confront about this. So I want to apologize for what you've gone through, but there is another path forward. So thank you.
And I should say, too, this is in the wake of the, Iran war that's currently going on. There will be nothing but more veterans produced from that and less services each and every year as a result,
Well, not if we have anything to do with it.
Thank you, sir.
Up here? Yeah, right up there, yeah.
I am a stand that the planet and all its people get that they matter. And what I've noticed in our community is an increase in homelessness. I believe it starts really little. And if our little kids don't get in kindergarten and preschool that they matter, they grow up, and those that have learning disabilities or maybe are on the spectrum get pushed aside and bullied. And our bullying creates an environment of not belonging. And that's spilling over to some mental health issues that we're dealing with on a level of homelessness and violence in school, and even in our adult community with this whole political arena. How do you intend to help build and develop a better education system that gets more people in the schools and not teachers taxing themselves and having to dig into their own purses to provide for these kiddos? What do you propose we do? And then I have a second thing. As far as getting the deep dive that you talked about, the deep canvassing, that's how to get and blurry the lines. Start asking questions and see where you're related, where you're in agreement about what we're up to in this country. Because there's a lot of people who watch Fox News that have some values and ideals that I actually hold true as well. We just don't agree on a couple of things, and I think if we work together, we can come up with a way to move forward, and if that doesn't work, we can come up with another way to move forward. So thank you for being here, and thank you for hearing me, and thank you for helping people get that they matter.
Of course, thank you. You want to start us off?
Yeah, I'll do Braver Angel. Another Braver Angel shout out. I like that. Two really good points and questions there. I want to quickly build on your second point, and maybe if you want to come on the education stuff. Although I will say, I'm the son of a first grade public school teacher, and we got a lot of teachers in the room. We support you, and that's a critical part of it, is having the backs of our teachers and all of our union members that I know are the backbone of this community, just like the backbone of my community. I want to talk about the deep canvassing, because we did something really not normal in a good way today, in that we had about 150 folks who showed up, and we made clear, if you're coming, you're doing, this is like an 8-hour commitment. We did training, we went out, we used some new tools, and we deliberately did the opposite of what field has looked like for those of you that have been involved in campaigns. We didn't skip over houses just based on some arbitrary spreadsheet somebody gave us from a national database. We deliberately sought out people that were on walks with their kids, a lot of strollers and dogs, and we did not have a script deliberately. We did not talk about elections at all. We just showed up as humans and humble representatives and said, what's going on in your life? What matters to you? And then we also, so we did that, and then everybody did that, and then we came back together at an auditorium at a community center, and we all debriefed on it. And we had young people doing it, and we had people of all over the place that were doing it. And the commonality, to your point, ma'am, of the points that we heard from everybody, both the specific immediate pain points of, in my district, it's utilities and costs, like, is number one for everybody. Housing affordability, like right up there. Of course, we were hearing healthcare, food, and grocery costs. And those are those immediate fights, and we have to lean in on those fights. But we heard that deeper yearning for, like, we kind of don't trust a lot of politics right now. We don't trust a lot of politicians right now. And we don't want this incremental stuff, because it's not really working. In fact, it seems to be kind of sliding us backwards. And so I think there's a way to do that and take big swings, but do it in a unifying way. And to me, that's leadership. And then I'll pass it to an incredible leader, which is like, we have a choice, each of us. We certainly do in our jobs and platforms. Like, in any given moment with the hours in the day we have, are we gonna focus on the issues that we know might get people riled up, but are inherently gonna divide us? Or are we gonna do the harder thing to lead and say, no, we're going to focus on the fact that 99% of people in this district care about those unifying issues, and that's what we're going to focus on. And if it means we have to say, yes, that's important, but right now we've got to focus on these things that unify us. I just think that's so important and something we're both trying to push more within our party. And please participate in that, hold us accountable for that. And I think that's such a good point, ma'am, so thank you.
Thank you. To your point on education and housing, I actually represent Rikers Jail. And it's, the reason I bring this up is because not just in Rikers, but in counties and places across the country, they will often look at second grade test scores to determine how many prison beds you're gonna need and prepare in 10 to 15 years. This is real. This is real. And the reason I say that is because, and I know, we hear a lot about how these issues get discussed and publicly, but these are systems. There's good and there's bad, and certainly there are people who do awful things, but these are systems that drive these kinds of terrible outcomes that happen. These are systems in our jails. These are systems that generate homelessness, and it starts so young. And so that is the connection, right? They're looking at second graders, children, and trying to look in those child's eyes and already planning the worst future imaginable for them, instead of rejecting that we need to get there in the first place. When I graduated college, so when I was growing up, I was born in the Bronx. And when I was born in the Bronx, at that time, the Bronx had some of the highest high school dropout rates in all of New York City, if not the state. And my parents felt really scared. They didn't want, and they felt that I was going to be one of those kids for no reason outside of the zip code that I happened to have been born in, that they were scared that because of where I was born, there was going to be a prison cell that was planned for me instead of a diploma or a small business or something else like that in terms of my future. So my parents and my whole extended family, they chipped in everything they could so that we could get and move to a small house in Yorktown Heights. And at that time, if you know anything about Yorktown, it's not as glitzy as it is today. But it was a working class community in a place where a public school district could have a shot. And so when I fast forward and I graduated college, I decided to move back to the Bronx because I wanted to work and organize in early childhood education to stop this cycle of planning and perpetuation. So I sat down and I interviewed a bunch of school principals, actually. And I said, if you could do one thing to change the outcome for your kids or to give your kids a better shot, what would that thing be? And you'd be surprised at the answers I got. A lot of them said, I would get their parents a Metro card. I would make sure that they could be home, that they wouldn't have that they didn't have to work a second shift, so that they could be home with their kids to read with them. And there are so many things we can do in our educational system. We can start first and foremost by making and treating teaching as the dignified and honorable work that it is. And we do that through how we pay our teachers, our working conditions, how we design our schools. But also we have to understand that kids live in the world that adults live in. And when your parent doesn't have to work 2 jobs, then you get read to more at night. When your mom or dad can afford a better meal for you and you go to school on a full belly, you have better test scores. And I'm from a community that has some of the highest childhood asthma rates in the country. One of the things that we found out, guess what? That air pollution in a neighborhood is directly correlated to school outcomes. In fact, it's one of the highest correlations of school outcomes. And so, even with our kids, this is where fighting for all of our issues helps them do better too. And we can stop living in a world where we're planning for prison beds instead of planning for colleges and planning for new businesses and planning for the actual brighter futures and knowing that this generation can have it differently than what we've had in the past. So thank you for your question. It's so deeply important.
Sorry, Destiny, gonna make you get some stairs in.
Where are we going?
There's a few people at the top. Thank you. I'm gonna let you decide because I don't want to get in the middle of that. Do we have a young lady here that I see? Yes, she gets the mic for sure.
Hi. So I just wanted to say.
What's your name, sweetheart?
Amelia. And I just wanted to say that when you said that we're all in the same boat, Donald Trump is trying to break us up into pieces and not be in the same boat. So we're trying to stick together and be in the same boat.
Thank you, Amelia. I love being on your boat, Amelia. It's the best boat.
How old are you, Amelia? 9. That is
9.
some wisdom right there. I don't think anything needs to be said after that.
No. You can have my job if you want.
You're the captain of the boat.
Yeah,
though,
you're the
Amelia. That's
captain,
the key.
Amelia.
All right. Do you want to pick the next one? Sorry.
Sure. Right here, shaking. Right there. It worked.
In the glasses and the very good.
Right over here,
is that
like
what you were
down.
saying?
Yeah, right here.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Thanks for coming. Really appreciate it. Did you get asked or did you just decide to come?
Oh, no, we just decided.
That's what I thought. You like going to red districts. I appreciate it. And I'm going to let Elise know what a real town hall looks like.
I don't think she would have extended the invitation to us.
No. I just wanted to know when the Democrats take back the House, how will you hold the Trump regime accountable? And what are the 3 top priorities you're going to do?
Ooh.
End Citizens United, whatever.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much. In terms of accountability, this is, I think, a very core central question. One of the things that they're trying to do is, as we know, they call it flooding the zone, right? Like if we break all the laws, how are you going to decide which few you're going to hold us accountable on? And I think I had served on the oversight committee, which has been responsible for a lot of these investigations, is already setting up a lot of these investigations. We have a phenomenal member from California, Robert Garcia, who will be the chairman once we win these majorities. And so, I really believe in his leadership and how we actually prioritize those things. I will say that, to be honest, the cover-up around the Epstein files is such a clear break of the law. Congress gave explicit instruction to the Department of Justice on what needs to be made public, and that has not happened. And we have actually seen victims be exposed and predators be protected, and we can't allow for that to happen. But I mean, the corruption, the list goes on in terms of holding people accountable. The question can't just be if we're gonna hold people accountable, it's when and who we are going to hold accountable. But to the point that you raised around Citizens United, I mean, I think this is something that we're both very passionate about, because one of the big reasons that we're here is because of big money in politics. We are seeing huge dark money being spent. And, you know, for a lot of these folks too, to what we're speaking to earlier, people saying, I don't know how to reach my family, I don't know how to reach my friends. And a lot of that pain is because people are believing things that are just not true. They're just false. And one of the reasons, you know, and you hear a lot of people who regret their vote in the presidential election now, because you'll hear people say, I thought he was going to do this, and I thought he was going to do that. And putting aside how anyone may feel about that, at the end of the day, there was a flood of misinformation that was circulating. And that misinformation is paid for and bankrolled by some of the biggest and deep-pocketed donors in politics. And we got to kick them out. We have to kick out big money in politics. I'm a huge fan of legislation supporting the overturning of Citizens United, and I think it's a big place for us to start.
And we could have a whole nother session on this and would love to, but I also think the second part of your question and point, sir, is absolutely critical, both morally and politically, which is there is so much to be against. So much, I said to my team, we've gone into protect mode, shields up mode, as our communities are getting just cut and pummeled and divided and belittled and tired. But part of how you derive energy is to get out of the defense. And so we've been talking a lot about this, and a lot of our colleagues, frankly, some of our newer, younger colleagues, we can't just be against. We have to be for. We have to be crystal clear what we're for. And like we've heard, that's why tonight is so important. That's why the deep listening with no judgment, giving people the space to be like, yes, you were either wrong, which I'm wrong all the time, or you heard bad information, or yes, we can still like change our mind in the United States of America when we learn new information. Give each other the space to do that and listen and say, there are a multitude of issues, mostly really around the fundamentally screwed up and rigged economic situation for everybody in this country, that we can get a 90+% set of issues of focus around. Let's roll back these tariffs that the Supreme Court just ruled are illegal and give that money back to
you,
the American people, and you and our small businesses. Like, let's roll back the $1 trillion in cuts to our healthcare system and reinvest, especially in rural community centers and physicians and hospitals. Let's take the $70+ billion we just gave to ICE, which is more than the budget of the United States Marine Corps, by the way. And like, let's actually invest that in real public safety in our communities, gun violence intervention programs, mental health programs, local police that we trust that are part of our backbone, the police officers that are here tonight making sure we're safe as we exercise our First Amendment rights. That's who we need to be supporting. So that's what we're going to do in the next months and years.
I think we have one more question. I cannot be the one who picks because I'm trying to get out of here alive tonight. So I don't know if you'd like to. Yeah, this side hasn't gotten enough folks over here, so maybe we'll go up on this side. And before we take the question, I want to just put a seed in everyone's ear that one of the things that we do back home in our community is that whenever I do a town hall or whenever we bring people together, I give everyone a little bit of homework before we leave the day. And the one thing that I say is that, yes, a lot of the work is about persuasion and how do we get people to see this and how do we get people to do that, and that work is very important. But what's also just as important is connecting ourselves and creating community among ourselves. And so my one request after our question, before we all leave today, is that I always ask people to leave here knowing at least one person that you did not know walking in here. And so at the end of the day, and after the end of the question, we'll say our greetings to one another. And I would like for us to kind of shake hands, because the goal has always been and will always be that this will not be the last time we all see each other. That we will cross paths again. There's already at least one or two people that were here at Plattsburgh when I was here last time around. There we go. We will cross paths again, and many of us here may see each other again. And especially if we're seeing to do the work of flipping this district, I'm hoping that we will all become very good friends over the next couple of months. So let's take this question and then we'll take it off.
All right. So we have Teresa here with the last question of the evening.
Hello, and first, thank you so much for being here. This is a gigantic opportunity for our community, and we're just honored. My question, and it's somewhat piggybacking off this young person who feel that their life and their opportunity in America was kind of cut short based on a lot of Trump policies. And we do have local issues like PFOAs in Hudson Falls. We have PCBs in the Hudson River. We were highly affected year before last by the Canadian wildfires, where you couldn't go out for days. And my major concern, besides all the cutbacks to EPA and the promoting of fossil fuels and the ending of windmills and the derogation of solar panels and cars, electric cars, is the endangerment finding, because I feel like that is the backbone of all legislation and policy that will help protect us. And I believe that the future for young people is dire when we talk about opportunity to be in nature, opportunity to have clean water, clean air. Our food is full of lead and arsenic, even organic stuff, because there's so much falling from the air and in our land. And I was under the hope and impression that an executive order could be overturned if there's enough support in both houses, and I'm wondering if you could speak to that.
Well, thank you. Thank you for this. It's so important, you know. Pat and I have actually done some work on this in the past, where we went out and were part of going after, was it GE for their dumping of PFAS, was it? PCVs in the Hudson River, right? I'm like, but we went out. Yeah. Made its way through both of our districts. And when I was on the oversight committee, I actually helped lead one of the first investigations into PFAS dumping in communities across the country. And when I also think about how we got to this moment, I actually think a lot about this MAHA movement that convinced a lot of people to vote for Donald Trump, because I think that this was really an area where a lot of people who share the same concern were kind of ushered into this other direction. But the concerns were, I think, very much shared, right? And these big companies are poisoning us, and they are not telling us. PFAS and everything from cookware to gym clothes. You've got dumping in our rivers. To your point, the increased using of public lands and taking public lands away from the public as well, which prevents our own access to it. All of this is really becoming a deep threat to the American people. And most recently, of course, what we saw on glyphosate in the spraying. Glyphosate, AKA Roundup, the source of huge amounts of lawsuits because it has been identified as a tremendous cause of cancer across the country. And people have been exposed to this chemical, and it's always these big companies like 3M, and these conglomerates are so big that they're able to kind of obscure. They're able to discredit scientists who first start to sound the alarms around the poisoning of these things. This is a lot, I think, of what needs to get overturned. We have an ag bill right now that is getting negotiated, unfortunately, in a very partisan way. But legislation is the vehicle that we can overturn a lot of these horrible actions, and also investigation as well. And that's one of the powers, that I want to make sure that also applies here as well. We can pass legislation to hold these polluters accountable, and we can also use the power of Congress to investigate a lot of these cover-ups that are happening. We've done it with PFAS. We've done it with plenty of other instances as well. And people need to know, they deserve to know what is happening quite literally in our own backyard. And we also need the investments to strip out a lot of this poison that has sunken into our soil and our water.
I agree. We're both co-sponsors of the Green New Deal as well, which, when we talk about where we're going, is exciting. Again, not just against, but what we're for. But in the interest of everybody's Sunday evenings, yes. I just want to briefly say thank you so much. Thank you to so many leaders, political leaders, elected officials, community leaders, for having us here, for welcoming us here. I saw a video of people waiting out. The weather was not so cold, thankfully, but I'm so humbled and so honored to be with you all. And you opened your hearts tonight and you shared emotional stories. We were inspired. I was most inspired by an incredible future leader of our nation, Amelia. Thank you. And I just leave tonight so much more optimistic, so much more energized, and very grateful also to my incredible colleague for making the trip. So thank you. And
this is great. Thank you all so much. You all are so lucky to have a neighbor in Pat Ryan. So let's give him a big round of applause as well. And it really is no small thing, because I will say, in Washington, D.C., once you get to Washington, right, you get swarmed by all of these consultants and pundits and people who think that they know our communities better than we do, right? And there's so many people from that world that would tell someone like Pat, saying, listen, you're from a purple district, you shouldn't be seen anywhere near her, right? And so it is no small thing for us to be doing this work together and to reject that conventional wisdom that we are stronger apart than we are together, because it's not true. And that's one of the things that we're seeing here today. So often We've heard all of this rhetoric that tries to turn upstate against downstate, rural versus city, and it's all nonsense. It's all nonsense. And so I thank you all for welcoming us and for proving all of those doubters wrong. And my hope today is that everybody turn to their left and their right and shake hands with your neighbor. Go ahead. I love it. Because we will be seeing each other again. So thank you all so much, and we'll see you around. Thank you.